Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. Short week. At least it is for us. I hope it is for you. If you're knocking off work for a long 3-day weekend, get on by Rouse's. Get some groceries. Shows. Part of our Thursday show is always Luke Johnson covering the New Orleans Saints for The Advocate. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, news of the week, I think probably the quotes regarding Ryan Ramczyk and his current situation. Did they surprise you?
Yeah, they did. We just heard like a month ago, not even, that he was, kind of progressing better than they were kind of hoping. So to have it go from that in a span of a couple of weeks to, some very concerning sounding quotes, it was definitely a surprise. It adds a whole new level of anxiety to that tackle position going into this draft. Unless somebody is there that you're just like completely not expecting to be there, you have like Roma Dunze or Malik Neighbors somehow falls all the way to the middle of the first round. Like, I don't know how you could do anything but take a tackle, just considering the position they're in right now.
Yeah, it's not good. Where is it without Ryan Ramczyk in before the draft? I mean, legitimately, are they without a starting tackle, or it's what it looks like?
Yeah, we don't have like the full medical report and what they're really expecting out of Ramczyk right now. But I think you have to go into this considering that there's a good possibility that he won't play. You have to be prepared for that. And then that's not even taken into account the situation at left tackle where, we've talked ad nauseum since the end of the season where you just don't feel like they could really go into a season counting on the light switch going off for Trevor Penning. And the guy who started the majority of the games last year at left tackle is currently a free agent, Nandris Pete. So, they're in a really bad spot there. It doesn't matter how good Clint Kubiak's offense is. If they don't have at the very least average or, better yet, good tackle play, that's going to really hurt what they can do offensively. It's a huge question mark for them, and they got to do something to address it.
Does Andrews Pete get a phone call from New Orleans saying, "Hey, you want to come on back to the negotiating table"?
Yeah, I'm assuming that those conversations are happening. This is just speculation on my part, but they got to do something. And the options after, they were kind of slim in free agency to begin with. Some big names out there, like a lot of question marks with them. Tyron Smith hasn't played a lot of football because of injury the last couple of years. David Bakhtiari is still out there, but he's played 12 games the last 3 years. I think if you're really looking at who's still available out there, you probably feel best about Andres Pete. And even though they're already accounting, close to $13 million for him in dead cap money, I think that's at least a conversation you have to have because they're in a pretty bad spot, and he played pretty decent football for him last year.
Here's a conversation that we haven't had as part of this tackle conversation because that's been so much at the forefront. But how do we feel about the interior of the offensive line?
I feel pretty good about it. I think Caesar Ruiz had a little bit of a regression last year, but we've all seen him play at a pretty high level, and I think they brought in two really smart offensive line coaches, in John Benton and Rick Dennison. I think they're going to be able to get a lot more out of him. I feel really good about Eric McCoy. James Hurst, I think, he's one of those players that classifies as average to good, right? I think they're paying him, something like $3 million this year. I feel pretty good about that spot. And then the depth there, they used a 4th round pick on Nick Salisbury last year. We didn't see much out of him. It barely played, but I think he's somebody that you can at least rely on for depth. And then if not him, they just signed Oli Udoh, who's got a lot of experience playing in the NFL. So I actually feel pretty good about the interior, but it's hard to feel good about anything on that offensive line right now, just considering their tackle spot.
Is there any chance that Udoh can play on the outside at all, or they purely brought him in as depth on the inside?
I think there's a chance. Yeah, like when they brought James Hurst in, I kind of thought he was sort of a similar type player, and they've gotten some good run out of guys like this in the past. Whether you're talking about Hurst or Nick Eastman or a couple others, they've signed some of these players who've had a little starting experience. They played inside outside. They're they're pretty good at identifying the swing guys. I just don't know if like you really want to go into a season counting on him to be a guy instead of somebody who can fill in as needed. Kind of like the same sort of situation with Landon Young. Like he's played some decent football for him, but like if you're counting on him to be the guy, like the guy behind him is probably going to be worse. And the simple fact of the matter is that it's really hard for these guys to make it through a 17-game season without missing time. So you don't want to be like counting on a backup to be your guy because like you could just be totally up a creek without a paddle if just one thing goes wrong.
I realize it's not 1997 where the 285-pound tight end lines up there and helps you out banging on defensive ends. But, like, where are they at tight end, and do they need to consider the fact that tackle's going to be a concern, whether you've got a first-round rookie out there or Ramczyk's out there on one knee? Like, how are they at tight end, just relatively speaking?
I think they're okay. I think Foster Moreau gives them some help in that regard, right? Like it's kind of like the true Y tight end, the guy who's going to help with the inline blocking and also give you some help as a receiving option. I'm still high on Juwan Johnson, even after last year was really disappointing for him. I still think the traits are so good, and we saw it all throughout training camp last year. We've seen it in spurts from him. If you just get a little bit better offense in there, maybe he can take off. And then, I think there's a lot of interesting guys in this draft class who could be available on day 3. There's this kid from Illinois, Tip Ryman, who's like 285-pound tight end, exactly the guy you were talking about. I think there's a couple guys like him in this class where you could get a big body tight end. You can find them in the 6th round, 7th round, undrafted, and still help you out in the areas that you need when you need bigger bodies on the field to help out that offensive line.
I've seen a couple of mock drafts that have seen the Saints taking a 5th, 6th round quarterback like they've done a little bit in the past without a ton of success. We know that Jake Hayner kind of fits that category, like somebody like a Jordan Travis, somebody like that. Do you think that's a possibility, or do they have so many holes that drafting a potential competition backup quarterback has to be way down the list?
No, I think it's a possibility. It all depends, though, on what they do with their draft assets. They have 9